Hey everyone, welcome to the Arena Decklist YouTube channel. I'm Jerry Thompson. Here with me is Brian Gottlieb. And today, we are not going to be playing on Arena. We are going to be playing on Magic Online. Everyone get excited. Uh, Not something that we're super happy to be doing, but Magic Online is the only place other than real life that you can actually play Pioneer. And we want to get some Pioneer content up on the channel because I know people are very excited about it. So we are going to be playing a few matches of Sultai midrange versus Izzet Phoenix, and then I think Sultai versus Devotion, and then maybe Sultai versus Mono Red, something like that.
Yeah, that sounds good to me, and we'll make sure to have the deck list down in the description so you can check those out. We'll also be sideboarding, so you'll get a chance to look at the full list when we go to our sideboarded games as well. And like Jerry said, we are going to be battling with the Moto interface to some extent throughout the day. We've done our best to make it acceptable. You see the card window I have popped up for you there, so it's a little bit easier to see some of these really tiny cards. But we got to work through this. This is how you get Pioneer content for the time being. And I know this is important to a lot of folks who are exploring the format. So this is how we're going to do it. I hope you all can bear with us as we work through all of Magic Online's quirks. And what's the friendly word for quirks when you like something and you paint it in a favorable way?
I'm gonna look that up.
Okay. I don't know exactly what I'm trying to get at, but we love Magic Online and we just want to highlight its eccentricities. That's what I was looking for, Jerry.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's an
yeah,
eccentric program. That's the way we define
yes.
it.
There you go. I
Mm-hmm.
like that. Yeah. So we are treating this like we are trying to find the truth. So in order to do that, we are not necessarily trying to replicate an exact tournament setting where it's like you sit down, you have no information on your opponent, whatever. I want to know what this build of Phoenix is like against an actual tuned version of Sultai. So both of our lists are a little bit different than what you would normally see on, I want to say on ladder, but in the queues, in the leagues, and in PTQs and stuff like that. But like, I think the list will eventually be updated more to reflect the things that we are doing and also the things that we're just trying out too to kind of see how they go. So I know Brian's deck list. Brian knows my deck list, and we know each other. We know how each other plays and everything, and we are just trying to figure out what the actual matchup is like because I think that is more important when you are trying to figure out like what version of what deck you should be playing or whether or not you should be playing Phoenix in a field full of Sultai or things like that. Because if your record on Magic Online is very very good, that could be a result of a lot of different things where maybe they didn't know that you were Phoenix, so they kept a bad hand, or maybe they didn't know your list, so they sideboarded poorly. And I want to know, like, if we're playing in the top eight of a tournament, like, is this actually in my favor? Because if I can't win the tournament, once people like know my deck list and understand how to play and sideboard it and stuff, then I don't necessarily think it's the best choice to actually bring. You know what I mean? So getting to the truth of the matchup is more important than just counting your results against a random opponent.
Absolutely right. I feel like I should also point out you may be noticing Jerry is kissed by the sun today. Turns
A
out
little bit.
Jerry's a sun god. We didn't know that until today. Just can't escape the sun. It's on his face no matter what he does. So
It's just the way my office is set up, man. I can't help it. I
it,
can't.
it's all good. I'm glad you're getting to bask in the sun's rays. And I am going to go ahead and get this kicked off. I'm going to mulligan. I'm looking at a hand, just so you know, Jerry, of Fatal Push. Jace Vryn's Prodigy and 5
Keep.
lands.
Oh,
Not acceptable here, so we're going to mulligan.
really?
Yeah, I think it's close, but
Damn.
I think you need to do more than that. And like no, again, knowing the matchup, there's a very high percentage my Jace dies immediately, so
Yeah.
really hard to bank on. We have an unplayable hand here, so we're gonna go down to 5, and now we have found something acceptable. We can make this work.
Okay. Well, I kept mine, even though it's just a ham sandwich.
Okay.
But that's what a lot of the Phoenix draws look like. I mean, it's like I have some stuff that I don't necessarily want, but I do have a way to filter my cards. So basically, what Phoenix is looking to do is just kind of like use its mana every turn doing stuff. And eventually you'll cast Treasure Cruise, transform Thing in the Ice, bring back some Arclight Phoenixes, and go from there. But the first few turns look a little sketchy, especially in Pioneer.
Well, we can go ahead and dispense with all the secrecy. Because I'm going to go ahead and cast Thoughtseize here.
Okay. I assume my Charter Course is going down because, like I said, the rest of my hand is kind of nonsense. So Tome Scour. Tome Scour is not a card that a lot of people are playing in their Phoenix decks, and on its face, I don't think it is particularly good. However, there was some discussion in our Discord where some people brought up the idea of playing Tome Scour instead of some of the poor 2-mana options like Strategic Planning, just these things that are like a little bit clunky. And while they remain card neutral, you don't necessarily need or want card neutral things. So Tome Scour turbocharging your arc lights and your treasure cruises and stuff is pretty good, but at the same time, that's not really good enough. So now you have like 2 mission briefings on top of it, which it allowed me to like play, a cruise every other turn basically when the engine got going. So despite that, I am going to play the land that Brian did not know about and not cast my Tome Scour because I have this thing in the ice and I would prefer to save my spell for after it. So like I can go Tome Scour / on turn 3 and maybe bring back a Phoenix if I hit it. Like there's no rush to just like jam Tome Scour.
Yeah, I think especially given that I was on a mulligan, you're super incentivized to just sit there and wait and not really do much right now.
Yeah, I mean, if I drew Treasure Cruise, it would be a little bit different, or like even drawing an opt or something else to do. But I think the hallmark of a like average Phoenix player and a great Phoenix player is like knowing exactly when you're supposed to like jam your spells or when you're supposed to hold them. And I tend to err a little bit on the side of just holding them a little bit more often than most people do, I think.
Note that I'm fatal pushing in my main phase. I know Gerry has Izzet Charm in the deck, so it just makes sense to do that right now.
I mean, you have 2 mana open.
Sure, but maybe I have other things. I know you know all the cards in my hand at this point, right? No, you don't. You don't. I know your hand.
I know nothing. All right, so we're going to get our Tome Scour on. We did brick on Arclight Phoenix, so no use. Wild Slashing. And like I said, first few turns, definitely just a lot of setup. Without, Faithless Looting and all of the busted modern cards, this deck is certainly a lot weaker in Pioneer. You just kind of make do with what you got.
I think there actually is an interesting decision here. So I'll walk you through it, Gerry, because I think I know which way I'm leaning and what I'm going to do. I have Scavenging Ooze in hand.
Yeah.
And I think there's a good argument to be made for just playing it here and forcing you to Wild Slash and use some resources. Mm-hmm. Mostly because of the other card that's in my hand, which I think, like, I'm okay outing it and just play like you would if you didn't know I had this card. But the last card in my hand is Nissa Vital Force, which is kind of a new pickup for this deck. And I think forcing you to expend your resources at this juncture and then just, like, having Nissa Vital Force might be the way I'm actually able to pull this game out.
Yeah. Also, like, so I have 2 Wild Slashes. If you just sit on Scavenging Ooze, it doesn't really do anything.
Right.
And my slashes aren't going anywhere.
Right.
So just being able to run that out and maybe trade it for 2 slashes is probably what you want to do.
Yeah, the alternative is that I wait until you've spent the Wild Slashes to, like, fuel a big turn. But at that point, Scavenging Ooze is kind of worthless anyway.
Right.
And,
I mean, I'm just going to bring back a Phoenix or whatever. Right. And at least this way, yeah, I have 2 Wild Slashes and 2 random cards. Oh, you even have a Fable Passage, so maybe, yeah, you can get a Swamp and then have 2 Ooze activations.
That was my thought.
Yeah. So if you play the Ooze, that kind of forces me to slash now, and then I'm not necessarily going to have enough spells for the Arclight Phoenixes anyway, so... I'm actually just going to do this. There are certain situations where I would actually wait here, but...
So I think I want to activate again to make sure I gain the life, right? Is that the way that works? Or do I gain the life regardless?
It's on the stack. You would gain the life.
Okay. I'm doing it anyway. Take that.
Oh, you're about to get max punished for that, buddy.
No. Mission briefing, huh?
Yeah, this is why I want to actually clear out the ooze, because I certainly didn't want to play the briefing and then have you be like, oh yeah, okay, I'm gonna exile your cruise in response.
Right.
So this is kind of what we do here.
Yeah, I
We
guess knowing mission briefing, like I'm super incentivized to hit cruise instead, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, now we have lost the truth of this matchup. I have to say.
Well, you were supposed to know what's going on. You weren't supposed to like go after my thing in the ice again. At the very least, you should just get a card out of my graveyard because I could draw
Because
it.
you have briefing. Yeah, I honestly just like wasn't thinking about briefing. I was thinking about keep creatures out of the graveyard, keep Arclight Phoenix out of the graveyard, but I forgot about mission briefing, buying this stuff back.
Yeah.
Okay, we bricked on our land, so now things will spiral quickly out of control. I have a feeling.
This is so I have an opt and a couple other spells. This is a period where I could afford to wait, but it's possible that I just chain into Izzet Charm, Chart a Course, whatever. So I want to use the mana on your turn rather than my turn, and I just kind of like bricked off, so I'm not doing anything this turn. What I'm supposed to do is draw another Treasure Cruise at some point, or more card drawing, and just be able to keep going. Well, the goose is loose.
Yeah, now that the goose is loose, things are about over.
Well, I drew another land.
Perfect.
Exciting times. I do feel like, am I supposed to kill this goose?
The alternative is that it's loose, and we know what happens when that goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna play like I know you have Nissa or whatever, because
Right.
if I knew you had Nissa, then I would almost certainly just kill it to maybe delay that for a little bit.
Sure.
But I think at this point, I would just be like, well, I'm gonna hold my spells for a thing in the ice, and I don't think the mana is really doing you a whole lot, and you gaining excess foods is gonna prolong the game a little bit. But I do think that if I pull ahead, I'm just gonna kind of bury you.
Right. So interesting spot now, obviously, knowing that you have Izzet Charm. Would I just jam Nissa Vital Force? That is non-creature spell, right? I'm trying to remember the text.
It is non-creature spell. Two of my Izzet Charms are gone, and also with the way my deck is set up, if I drew an Izzet Charm, I would just jam that main phase to draw two discards.
Makes sense to me.
I would not be holding on to that. I would be trying to get something going.
I think beyond that, it's just like if I sit and do nothing, I can't possibly win this game. Is the other big point here. So we're gonna go for it. We're gonna jam this Nissa here. And it is down, and this is a pretty clear plus to me. I don't think there's really any reason why we would just minus on our scavenging ooze here. Our worst land is likely our forest at this point. Although I do not anticipate it will die. Forest beatdowns. What a world.
Yeah, again, that was one of those spots where it's like, I have a spell to cast. I'm just going to wait, because if I draw a thing in the ice, or a way to put Arclight Phoenix in the graveyard, I'm just going to want to have these spells. But now I kind of bricked off again. So we're just going to do some stuff on this turn, I believe. And I could go after the goose, but I'm not super concerned about it. Realistically, I just want to whittle down this Nissa a little bit in case I do draw a Phoenix or something else.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I could have axed the forest when you attacked, but it doesn't really accomplish a whole lot, I don't think. I'll just take the 5 and then wait. See what I draw.
Picked up a nice one here.
Must be nice. That is a good one. That is a good magic card.
Yeah, I was incentivized to play this before doing this attack here, because I do actually want mana open. These are kind of the new pickups for this version of Sultai. I understand these came from a friend of yours, right, Gerry?
Yeah, John Westberg. also known as Orange, HS_Orange on Twitter. Recently was in Hearthstone Grandmasters, but I know him through Magic a long time ago, and we're going to be doing a podcast with him Tuesday is when we're going to record, I think. And yeah, he's been playing a bunch of Pioneer and just crushing it because he's a master. So
I have been impressed by both of these cards in the deck for sure. Tasigur more than Nissa, but Nissa is starting to show its worth to me.
yeah. We flooded out hard, Brian.
Yeah, I see that.
Super hard.
The top of my deck has been quite kind as well.
Well, you're kind of in a spot where it's like land or spells are just fine.
Yep. No, I
So
agree.
I'll normally try and hold on to a land, but I actually had a 6 mana card that I wanted to cast. And I like axing the land here instead of the Tasigur because this makes it like if I draw another thing to block or kill a thing, then I won't die next turn.
Right.
So, yeah. All right. Well, this is on chump blocking duty.
No,
So,
it's not.
okay. Yeah. If you have anything, I lose.
My hand was rolled up. Fatal Push, Abrupt Decay. The top of my deck was very kind to me when we reached that point of parity. So let me bring this up so we can see our sideboards here. Yeah, I think your deck just kind of fizzled out on you there, and we've all played Phoenix games. We know how that goes sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I cast a Treasure Cruise, and ideally what happens is you get to chain those card drawing spells, and I just didn't draw any more. Didn't have a Phoenix early to play with or anything, so...
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I think it's worth mentioning that had I played properly, you shouldn't have had access to that Treasure Cruise either. So it would have been on really thin margins for sure.
I mean, it would have been pretty similar because, like, I could either hold the mission briefing for a while or I could just fire it off, and then I had a Chart a Course or Izzet Charm, so I would have been one fewer card deeper, and I would have not had as many resources. But, like, given the way that game played out, I don't think it would have actually changed all that much.
Sure. So do you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing for sideboarding here?
Yeah, I mean, you have Jace and Goose that I kind of want to kill early, so all the shocks are good. You have some bigger stuff like Kalitas, Tasigur, Courser, Crufix that I also want to kill, so I kind of need the lightning axes. And then I would expect some amount of graveyard hate to come in. I know that you have Leyline specifically, so normally I would keep in the Fiery Tempers, but those seem like actually the worst of my burn spells, and then I'll cut some of the stuff that is just strictly graveyard dependent, like the Tome Scours. And then I just want to board in some threats like Chandra, Royal Scions, Brazen Borrower that don't actually care about the graveyard.
Makes sense. Obviously, that graveyard hate is going to come in for me. So we have the 3 Leyline of the Void. I like Kalitas. I think it's fine. Not super excited about it, but it's probably better than these Planeswalkers. I think it's really hard to squeeze value out of something like Vraska and even Nissa, even though it was very strong there. I don't think those cards often do all that much for you. So I'm planning on cutting Vraska. Planning on cutting a Nissa. And then trying to think of one more cut here.
I mean, I don't think you need 4 push, 4 decay.
Do you think you cut the Assassin's Trophy before you start tapping into the push decay?
I don't think so, because you should expect me to have some 4 mana cards in my sideboard.
Sure, that makes sense. I agree with you. That does feel like a large number of removal spells for sure.
And it's just Thing in the Ice and whatever secondary thing I have.
All right, so let's bring down Fatal Push because I expect Abrupt Decay. Like I know you have Royal Scions first of all, so and it'll hit Brazen Borrower as well. So we'll trim down to Fatal Push, and maybe under those circumstances, I'm comfortable with keeping a Vraska in the deck as well. Yeah,
5 seconds.
I
5
think that
seconds.
looks acceptable. Okay, we're submitted.
That's happened to me enough on Arena that God, stupid sun, get off me.
Oh yeah, nobody can see you. You look like a zebra bathed in the sun right now. there's a small crack where there's no sun on your face that you can possibly weasel yourself into, but that's about it.
Okay. My hand is 4 blue-red duels, lightning axe, 2 treasure cruises.
Yikes.
Yeah, like Cruise is definitely one of the best cards in the matchup. It might get bricked by Ooze or Leyline, and it's weird, right? Because Sultai, it's like, oh, I want to like mulligan into a Chandra or a Scions, but then I can just get like Thought Seized or get it removed.
Sure.
So you're sort of disincentivized to mulligan just in general, but I think this hand is bad enough that I think I actually want to mulligan.
I'm going to keep my hand. I think I have probably like the best non-leyline hand you can put together.
Yeah, so my hand's solid. I'm going to keep this, and I'm going to ship a mission briefing just because we're a little ways off from that.
Makes sense. Of course, the goose is loose.
Naturally. So again, kind of a slow start here, but whatever. The games go long naturally anyway.
Well, here's our first decision point. Again, knowing Izzet Charm is a card in Gerald's deck, I have access to playing either Oko or Scavenging Ooze. Scavenging Ooze is just so vulnerable without anything in the graveyard, and it seems like you generally want to just maximize the utility you get out of it. So I'm okay just trying to jam Oko here. There's certainly a reasonable enough percentage chance it works.
You just created a food token, my friend.
God damn it. God damn Magic Online. Well, now we can in no way reconstruct the game state. This is spiraled out of control, and this is not reflective at all of the truth. One more time, Gerry.
Yeah. So we're gonna play a new game. I think that is probably what we should do. I have a negate. I was gonna counter your Oko.
Okay, so let's just do this. Let's just ignore the Oko.
We can't because
you
I
need the
also
card
have
in the
like
graveyard.
treasure cruise and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, so like I just can't. We can't do that.
Okay. Next game, I'll concede.
All right. Good stuff.
Well played. Both teams played hard.
I honestly think I was just gonna lose that game. Like I had negate Scion's cruise.
Okay.
So like my hand is not really doing a whole lot. I mean, obviously I can peel out of it. And if you played Ooze that turn, it just sucks because I can't play Scions and then I just have to hold open negate again. I do think it's correct to just jam Oko and try and get some value out of the Ooze.
Right. But, interesting though that Ooze would have proved to be the best play.
Yeah. Well, I mean, given my hand, I don't think there's a world in which it was. It's also kind of weird, right? Because like I didn't kill the goose, and if I had a slash, I would have probably done that.
Right.
So I could see a world where the Ooze lives.
We're gonna put you on the play here.
Tight. All right, I'm gonna keep this.
My hand is bad. Assassin's Trophy, 2 Okos, 4 lands.
Is that bad? Dude, you mulligan so much with that deck.
I mean, I think you should be mulliganing a lot in this format in general. I'm pretty comfortable with that. We can keep this one, not the strongest possible hand, but we do have one of our trump cards. So we actually have 2 of our trump cards.
It's just weird to me though, where it's like, what are you looking for specifically? You know, I mean,
Accelerant, discard spell. I mean, some means of interaction. What does that hand really accomplish? Turn 3 Oko, and you've gotten to do your thing unmolested for 3 turns.
I don't know. Like Oko is definitely a very good card. It kills Thing in the Ice, has a bunch of loyalty, is hard for me to kill, is going to eventually kill me, and you have a trophy to deal with random threat in backup Oko. Like, doesn't seem that bad to me.
Maybe that's acceptable. I don't know. In post-board games, it seems like you've gotten so much better that that's not going to hang, but...
That's a magic card. Well, let's see what we can do. Fight through Leyline. Not a lot of people are playing Leyline quite yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen much of it, if any, quite frankly.
I think it's good. I mean, there are enough decks like Phoenix, Kethis, and then a few things that just incidentally end up using the graveyard, you know? So you play against like these Jace, Friends, Prodigy, Dig Through Time decks, and you don't actually realize like how much they use the graveyard until a Leyline's on the battlefield, and it's like, oh, Yeah, this actually matters a lot.
So deciding to play Ooze here by virtue of the Goose surviving and the other cards in my hand this time.
Also, the ooze doesn't really matter when I have
No
when you have.
graveyard.
Yeah.
Yeah, has gotten worse. It's a weird little tension, but
No, I mean I think you're fine just having one or the other, right?
right.
Just take my licks.
The beats are real. Scavenging Ooze was a ruse, Gerald.
Scavenging ruse.
Scavenging Ruse, yes.
All right. Raw chart of course. Exiling treasure cruise.
Tough times.
It's not great. It's not great. God, it's so weird because coming into this format, I did not think that Phoenix was going to be very good. Obviously, you do get Treasure Cruise, but thing cards like Thing in the Ice are just way worse. And I was skeptical of not having looting, not having Manamorphose, not having even things like Aria of Flame to sidestep stuff. And then Phoenix just started winning a bunch. And now I think people are figuring out what their plans against Phoenix are supposed to be, and Phoenix is just like not really winning at all. I know that a copy did PTQ. I guess maybe that's not fair, but I kind of feel like that now playing with this deck, where it's like, yeah, if people know what's going on, I think my initial suspicions were correct. Where it's like Phoenix is just not going to be able to hang.
Well, that's an interesting point. I mean, everything's good into a field that's preparing for nothing, right?
Yeah,
A couple options here, actually, which I guess is a good spot to be in.
must be nice.
Yeah, not super mad about it.
Yeah, I've been sitting on this one. I could have looted away some more dead cards, but I felt it was more important to actually try and tag a card that matters, and then sort of try and rely on my other stuff to dig me out of this.
Yeah, I think that's a hard read putting you on that card. Like, a lot of the way the game has played out makes me pretty happy to try and jam there, but
Okay. I don't necessarily think this is going to work out, but I'm going to put a Thing in the Ice on top since it is one of the cards that actually does stuff.
I've got options again.
I believe it. Up to and including loot.
Yeah, I like several of the cards in my hand. So let me tell you what I'm working with. I get the Jam and Oko here, which is great. I also have an Assassin's Trophy. So, like, I can just Oko on your Thing in the Ice and then don't have to worry about things getting flipped anymore. Or I can Oko, play untap land, Assassin's Trophy, Thing in the Ice by making food and cashing in food to Gilded Goose.
Yeah, I think I would prefer to just Oko plus on the thing and just deal with it that way because you're probably not going to care about the 3/3 all that much. Like I can start pressuring Oko, but you're just going to be able to keep the loyalty very high no matter what.
Right. I
And
also
then,
then get a card, like I can discard this land to Jace and try and find a real card, which I think pushes us in that direction as well.
yeah, regardless, like you're pretty sure you're going to loot this turn anyway, right? So you could
Right.
just start there too because that could potentially change
Well,
things.
no, see, I think the thing is, if I'm going to make that play of Oko Assassin's Trophy, I'm not going to loot because I need exactly those cards, right?
I mean, you would still loot though.
Right. I can always keep that. I see
But
what you're
yeah,
saying.
you can just mill a card and get closer to transforming Jace.
Right, right, right.
Maybe you find a better land. I don't know what land you're working with.
Yeah, we are just going to pitch land here. Keep some real spells around. Oko time.
Yeah, my plan with like Copycat and with Sultai for the most part was basically just try and lock Phoenix out. It's like you get things like Graveyard Hate, like Copycat had, Rest in Peace, and then you have some removal for the Phoenixes and the Thing in the Ices, and then you just try and deal with the other stuff they can do, like the Planeswalkers. And it just seems like that's all you want to do at this point. Like you're just putting me in the chokehold.
Right. Well, we did have our first Moto-related technical glitch there where I forgot to pop out my graveyard, so it probably looked a little weird on screen for a while. Sorry about
Oh,
that. It is fixed now.
all right. Coming for you, Oko.
Does this goose accomplish anything from this point forward? Given my hand, I think I am okay throwing this away and just protecting Oko's loyalty. It also speeds up the whole Jace process, so nope, don't do that. Thank you. We're actually going to block.
So I'm gonna do what I can to try and constrict what you're doing over there, but at the same time, I also have not a whole lot going on.
Right, and also now Scavenging Ooze is able to get to a 4/4, which could be very useful.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could just brick wall my 3/3 at that point.
And I think that is going to be the plan. I don't see a ton of value. Maybe I'm supposed to get aggressive here, actually.
Yeah, so I have a 3/3 attacking into your 7 loyalty Oko.
Right.
I mean, seems like you don't really care about that too much.
One of the good things about Oko, for sure. I can, of course, set up an exchange, though, at some point, which pretty backbreaking, but maybe it's just like a win more.
Yeah, I don't think that that really matters. I mean, you can just like take the 3 down to 4 and then take up on your food next turn and hit me for 7.
Right.
You know.
So let's do this. The goose is loose from the game. Should want to do this first. Give you a chance to fire something off.
I know that I'm gonna want to cast this turn just to do stupid surveil stuff, and then I'm gonna lightning axe your thing. So now I have a little bit more information before I decide what I want to discard. I'm gonna top both of those, even though they're both pretty heinous.
Who's the boss? So Phoenix here, yeah. I'll go to 1.
Yeah, and this basically would have happened, you know, even if you kept your who's back. I guess you could have like not done anything and then just passed with trophy mana up.
Right. Trophy in here does not feel great though, for sure.
Well, once I have 4 mana, there's not a whole lot of benefit for me having like 5 or 6 outside of casting Lightning Axe. And since you have Leyline, I mean, getting to 8 mana would be good, but I'm still a ways off. That's a good card.
It is good. This seems like an attack. I mean, I play around removal spell, specifically Lightning Axe, if I don't attack, and that makes it more likely I keep this Oko, but I think we're okay with just getting some damage in. I'm winning that race as well.
So I'm going to attack Oko. Obviously, I don't think that this is going to actually happen. This was the other card I kept on top.
Yep.
Still not in a good spot, though.
No, not great. We also get to fire off this Tasigur as well.
That's fine. You'll mill over 2 Thoughtseizes, and I'll just keep giving you those.
I would rather not. Let's play this here and leave open a little bit more mana. Yeah, this is correct. I guess we're not incentivized to do that pre-combat. Hold on. We attack first. Tradesies.
So I'm definitely not giving you Oko. I probably need to find a Lightning Axe to kill this Tasigur. If Jace flips, obviously that's really bad for me. So I think a lot of the things that I need to do don't really care about trophy all that much.
Yeah, that's my read on it as well. For my side, that's the card I want the least, so that usually means that's the correct choice.
Yeah, I was hoping I could draw Borrower there, and then maybe get a little something going.
Borrower would be nice.
You should click on the thing to activate it first.
Oh, does that make it auto use the mana?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, now I have to give you Jace.
Unfortunately, I don't have the land for it, but...
My hand is Briefing, Cruise. And if I do draw Borrower to bounce the Ley Line or Axe to kill the Tasigur, I think at some point I'm going to want to bounce the Ley Line, and then I will still need to get a Graveyard, which Mission Briefing kind of helps me do.
Right.
So I could cash in the Briefing to try and find Axe or Borrower, but if I get Borrower, it doesn't matter because you can just replay the Ley Line or replay the Tasigur. So it only matters if I find exactly Lightning Axe. But, I mean,
if you brick, you lose, right? So...
Yes, but even if I do this and then hit, I'm not really doing anything. Like, I don't have a chance to win, necessarily.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
Alright, so now I can keep an Izzet Charm on top to, like, again, just discard more cards to try and dig more, but I don't think that it does anything. Ugh. Yeah.
Alright, well, it's attack time.
Is it? Does it have to be?
Seems like it does.
What if I petty theft your Tasigur?
Not a huge fan, but it's your world.
I think you'll be okay.
I think so too.
That's my guess.
I think we'll find a way out.
So Tasigur, better than Dig Through Time in this deck, I think, because you just get you get the Tarmogoyf aspect of it, which is super huge, and double blue is kind of a problem sometimes, and now your deck just doesn't have to worry about that at all.
Yeah, I think I'm incentivized to preserve as much of my graveyard as I can here.
Just for Jace, right?
Yep.
Like, you don't really care about keeping Trophy open, necessarily?
Yeah, I don't see what it really accomplishes. Like, this Brazen Borrower is not at all impactful on the game.
How dare you?
Sorry, Brazen Borrower. The truth hurts.
Alright, well, I drew a thing in the ice. I know that you have Treasure Cruise. Or you have Assassin's Trophy, and I just have a bunch of cruises, so I'm dead.
Yep. GG's Sun
Yeah,
God
man.
Jerry. I do think like there's probably some fundamental issues for the Phoenix decks against any kind of Black X control. Things like Thoughtseize and the particular answers we have seem to line up very well. And Scavenging Ooze being one of the more played creatures, like
Yeah.
it all matters. It all adds up to like all these small edges are taken away just by the good cards that Green Black is playing.
Yeah, I'm trying to do some synergy based stuff, and you have a lot of the tools to actually just pick me apart. That's basically what Sultai is doing in this format for, Copycat and Kepis and Devotion, Phoenix. Like that is what Sultai is good at, and uh, Phoenix just doesn't really have the tools. You don't have a good way to actually shift into a post board configuration where you have things that don't care about ooze or leyline, and even still they just have like Thoughtseize and Decay and Trophy and stuff like that to just kill any permanent basically. So it's really tough for a deck like Phoenix to actually do stuff against Sultai.
Now I know you were looking at things like Fevered Visions and other weird stuff that could potentially
Yeah,
get you some angle into the matchup, but like you said, I think it all just lines up poorly with what Sultai is attempting to accomplish right now. And look, it doesn't mean like Phoenix is dead in Pioneer, because who knows if Sultai is even going to be a deck. Like from what I've heard, it doesn't seem like it did great in the Moto PTQ that just happened yesterday. It has some really tough matchups in like the mono green devotion deck. I think in general that's pretty slanted towards mono green.
yeah.
So it could get some squeeze, quite frankly. And even like the Wilderness Reclamation deck that ultimately won the PTQ, I can't imagine wanting to play against that as Sultai, even after you tweak your sideboard a little bit. Like I've gone up on Disdainful Strokes
Yeah.
from what I played yesterday, but I don't think that's going to be enough to really swing the matchup.
And in addition to Devotion, there was also just a mono green ramp deck that was like capping out at Ulamog and Emrakul and stuff. And like, you obviously don't want to play against that kind of deck either. So
Sure.
the meta is kind of adapting to the fact that Sultai exists already. And so you're going to be seeing kind of like this rock paper scissorsy type of thing, where maybe Phoenix is good against like the ramp deck or whatever, but is bad against Sultai, and then Sultai is bad against the ramp deck but good against Phoenix. So
Yeah, there's a lot of good balancing scales in the format. And actually, one of the great ones is Thoughtseize. And usually, people are really down on Thoughtseize as a card, I think, as in terms of its impact on Magic. But what it's doing to this format is doing a nice job of punishing the synergy-based decks. Really key against stuff like Felidar Guardian as well. So it's nice to see that card actually having like a beneficial role in the format as opposed to just being hated by everyone.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I think that does it for our first Pioneer matchup. Certainly more to come. There's so much to learn about this format, and I am enjoying all these games. That felt like a really cool game of Magic, somewhere between like Legacy and Standard. And you'd usually think, oh, it's between Modern and Standard, but it felt a little bit closer to the decision making of Legacy, I think.
Yeah, no. So a lot of these decks come down to, or for me at least, it's like searching Gatherer for like the 1 and 2 mana cards, just like the best cards that are also the cheapest cards,
Right.
because you want to be very efficient in a format like this with a wide card pool, and then that leads to a bunch of micro decisions in the early turns. And it does feel more like Legacy, except with the power level of Standard, and not kind of like the two ships passing in the night thing that Modern has going on for it. So I've been enjoying this format a ton.
Yeah, right there with you. So why don't we play more games? If you enjoyed our first foray into Pioneer, make sure you let us know down in the comments section. Do all the good like, share, subscribe stuff, and we'll be back with more games of Pioneer here on the Arena Decklist YouTube channel.